Hey there, welcome back to my final of the season episode, Leading from the Middle. I am so excited. And I want to just introduce myself. I'm Helen Young-McLaughlin, and I decided over the last year that I wanted to connect with 23 different leaders to learn a little bit more about what they feel companies can do to transform their middle managers into their most valuable asset. And I have to say, I am so excited that I challenged myself, stretched myself, and took the time to connect with each and every one of the people that I was lucky enough to interview. So today, super excited to introduce you to Jenn Graham. She is the founder and CEO of a company called Inclusive. That would be two V's on the end. And they really focus in on trust, inclusion, and respect. And they do that by engaging, the groups that they work with in these meaningful, facilitated conversations. But before I go any further, welcome, Jenn. Thanks so much for
Huh?
being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Helen. I just admire so much about you and your leadership work and excited to share insights from my experience.
Fabulous. Well, Jenn, I would love for you to take a few minutes and share with our listeners a little bit about the work that you've done and that you're currently doing that ties into what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So, as the founder and CEO of Inclusive, my work, my whole passion in life and mission has been to help design a more inclusive world. And that originally started back in 2014 when I had been working at an agency called Unboundary, phenomenal work and transformation work for companies and corporations. But I felt this desire to really dive in and start my own company. And so after about 5 years, I took the leap. I quit my job. I sold my house, got divorced, and got bangs. And it was a world-changing event for me. It was like one of those just after turning 30, realizing, oh my gosh, I'm not doing the heart and soul work that I really want to do. So I took the full leap dive in and started a consulting company called Aha Strategy. And at first it was just me. And I was doing a ton of work in the nonprofit and government space, slowly built up a team of contractors to work with me, and then convinced a few to come on full time so we could have healthcare benefits and all the things as I started to have my first child. So becoming a mother, also being a solopreneur was an interesting moment. And it forced me to build a team and to start to trust others with my first baby. And so that was like my first moment of really learning how to manage people and do so in a way where I could physically remove myself from the equation and trust my team to run things smoothly while I was out. And it worked so well that I decided, hey, this is pretty good. Let's keep it going. How can we grow our team? Our work from Aha Strategy started to experiment and using dinners as a way to bring people together around really powerful conversations. So when I, in 2017, a company called Civic Dinners spun out of my consulting practice. And that is what is now known as Inclusive. After
Mm.
the pandemic, in 2020 was a big year for us. We continue to grow really as a tool for community engagement and empowering people and really listening, using the voices of those, making sure that the voices that are maybe not always invited to the table are included in the planning process or decisions that need to be made even within a company environment. So all of that to say, 2020 rocked our world. We ended up getting funding. We went through Techstars, got our first investment, and then a big check, so almost over $1 million in funding. And that's when I really started to grow my team. I started to hire people left and right, kind of building out 5 different departments at the same time, which I don't recommend looking back.
Right.
I have a whole novel worth of lessons learned in building a team. But we did the thing. We built out our content, built out our technology. And so now our team, after pivoting through the pandemic, building out a new product and rebranding ourselves to Inclusive, we have a lean team that I fully trust that has been here with me now for over 2 years. And I can clearly say, like, they're my rock. They are there, and I'm proud to have learned a lot about how to manage, how not to manage, a lot about myself as a leader, because it gets reflected back to you and your feedback from,
Right.
even if you don't agree with that, listen. And I think that is a key lesson for me, is in listen to how I am interacting with others, and be willing to change, be willing to be coachable, and even if you're moving fast. So I've learned a lot, and I feel so grateful for the opportunity to lead my team.
I love that. And there's so many nuggets I just want to pluck out. And when I go
Yeah.
back and re-listen to this, I'm like, yes, yes. And when you synthesize it, or at least when my brain is kind of like filtering it, that listening to understand is so incredibly important.
Yeah.
And I loved what you said, even if you're moving fast.
Hmm. Especially when
Because,
you're moving fast. Yeah.
okay, so I love that even
Yeah.
more so, right? Especially when you're moving fast, because it's so easy to, and forget about, like, what is that person really telling me? What did I not pick up on?
Yeah.
There could be messages in there that we miss. And congratulations to you. I'm
Mhm.
sure that was not easy, all of those things. And it sounds like you are deeply involved, not only in the work that you want to be doing
Yeah.
and are drawn to and passionate about, but you also have this team that is supporting you, that you trust. Incredibly
Yes.
important. That word has been coming up a lot with a number of my clients lately. And along the way, you're kind of growing and learning as a manager, as a leader,
Yeah.
all those things, probably even as a parent, and
Uh-huh.
right? Because
Yes.
they're complementary lessons, I believe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Jenn, as you know, and with your expertise that you've just described, I think I'm super excited to hear what your answer is going to be. But I'm asking everybody the same question, and that is, what is something, actually just one thing, that
Mhm.
companies need to pay closer attention to when it comes to developing their managers?
Oh, it's so hard to just say one thing,
It
Helen.
is, it is.
I would say it had to be one thing. I'm going to go with listening. Absolutely imperative. We spend so much time and energy in developing leaders as the spokesperson, or as the communication, or the mouthpiece. But honestly, in order to truly build and support your team, you've got to create intentional space for really listening to them, listening to their concerns, their ideas, and even the challenges that they're facing, and be empathetic, an empathetic listener to
Mm,
their situation, so that you understand the context. You can then read between the lines and ask more compelling questions, because I feel like often, as a leader and in coaching middle managers, the key thing is becoming a coach. And the way coaches work is by asking questions and then listening. And so really, to be curious is to be brave, because you might hear something that you don't agree with, but also to then receive it with empathy and respect and trust, and to give it space for airing it out, maybe even an opportunity to either educate or kind of share some greater context as to why this might not, but it's a perfect opportunity to help them grow and expand
yeah.
their perspective in that moment. So yeah, listening, with an ear towards, like, a curiosity to learn. And if you have hired the right people and they're learning and they're willing to grow, you can help shepherd their growth, just by creating space for listening and feedback.
I'm taking a deep breath on that, because you are like speaking my language right now. And I also think that the people listening in, I want them to learn a little bit more about the power of listening, because we are naturally inclined to solve.
Yeah.
We are naturally inclined to hurry up and jump in and take the reins and make everybody maybe even feel better, or Some of it might be like, well, I can take care of it. Don't worry about it. And those little nuances, along with many others, we come with lots of stuff, how we were raised and, the environments we've worked in, and we bring all of that with us everywhere we go. And the truth is, if more people spent time building that skill, like literally, let me just pick up that 5 pound listening skill and let me exercise it first thing in the morning. Let me exercise it midday. I'm looking at my weights over there. I'm like, I might try to do that after we hang up. Tell me how you see this specifically in the work you do. A lot of listening needs to happen when you're facilitating meaningful conversation.
Absolutely. Well, I can just speak, first of all, from my own experience of leading a leadership team. So as the CEO and founder, I had a team of 7 people running different departments that I was responsible for. And we were running, of course, when you get funding and you're growing fast, you have high expectations and you're supposed to move quickly, spend a lot of money, and get huge returns on the other side. And so where I failed as a leader was thinking that I had to have all the answers and that I had to be the one with the plan, with the agenda, with this thing, and having to kind of set it up for them to then execute. And that absolutely backfired. What I needed to do in that moment, and instead of what I have done with our current team, is to give the goals and objectives, but allow them to surface the how and the ways, and to have them lead, and then they feel ownership of it, and it's their idea, and then I can help coach and course correct, but it does not need to be me, nor will it be successful if it's my idea that they're just executing. That's what makes people feel fulfilled, when they get to add their own piece of the puzzle to the solution. That's what gets them excited. That's what allows them to feel proud of the work at the end of the day, that they're not just a cog in a machine that's been designed without them, but it's been designed with them, for them, and they'll go above and beyond. And so when you really want people to feel ownership and that exceeding and moving quickly, you've got to create space for listening. You've got to listen to their ideas and solutions, and then offer feedback. And the hardest part for me was recognizing that, okay, this, for example, whether it was a blog or a marketing thing or a big campaign, would it be exactly the way that I would have done it? No. But did it meet the objectives? Absolutely. And go with it. Awesome. And because the feeling it has, if you pounce on it and try to redo it, it crushes morale. And it means that they may be more willing to lean on you more on the next one. And so I think, and really to uplift middle managers, give them the confidence, give them the coaching to improve, but don't do the work for them. Let them learn by making mistakes and coaching them and being positive and reinforcing. So
did you get that feedback, Jen? Is that how you
Yeah, I got feedback that I was unapproachable. People on my team actually were scared of me. And that in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, that is not the leader I want to be. I thought I was the most friendly person in the world, like charm and charisma. And that's how I would show up on presentations and town halls. And I thought that I was like, hey, let me know your feedback. But then when I was if I presented an idea and I asked for feedback, it'd be crickets. And I realized I needed to change the way I asked for feedback. And instead I needed to actually use words like, hey, here's an idea that I had. It's definitely not perfect. I really help poke holes in it, and giving permission for people to be the devil's advocate, actually play that role, and incorporating that into it so that people feel like they could disagree with me. Because that was the problem. There wasn't psychological safety. And people felt like if they said the wrong thing and made me mad, or if everybody was worried about how I felt about them. And I was like, hey, I actually care about what the customers feel like, customer comes first. That's what makes me happy. If customers are happy, then I'm happy. Like that, let's reorient the focus and make it about something bigger than me. And so I had to change the way that I was also communicating and honoring and uplifting other people's ideas that contradicted my own. And so I had to completely change the way I came up with or presented ideas, because I tend to be one of those like idea bombers. I'd come on, hey, And it would rock their world. They would think, oh my gosh, my whole Q2 has now been changed in a single, 5 minutes. And so it just when they're
Right.
looking for steadiness and security and planning and prep. So being conscious of how I am delivering messages as a leader can either crumble middle managers or really uplift them. And
Well,
and
I really appreciate you sharing, the failure side too, and the reflective side, because I think, that's what it is. Like, hey, I've been
yeah,
given this feedback. You can call it the failure. You can call it that gave me an opportunity to just go, okay, let
yeah,
me
it's leadership coaching
redesign.
on the job.
Yes. And I love the idea bombs that you come up with, like, "Ooh, here you go."
Yeah.
And I use the disc in my program, so I know that somebody with the S style who likes the steadiness, doesn't like sudden change, needs a little processing time. They're probably
Mhm.
hair is on fire and is like, "What are we talking about?"
Exactly.
But I want to take it back to where we started, which as we wrap this conversation up, and I just really want to keep going. So you're definitely on my list for part two, if you'll join me back. But the listening part,
Yeah.
when we have the ability to listen to understand and pair that, I'm going to add that because you
Yeah.
you said this and it really is so powerful. Pair that with curiosity,
Yeah.
what can happen?
We can move mountains, literally, I think. And that's the beauty of our work, is that I needed to take a dose of our own medicine. And that the work, what we preach, what we put out into the world, is all about creating brave space for people to be able to be honest, to be vulnerable. We in small group peer-to-peer dialogue where we host these online or in person, and still the magic is in setting the ground rules, setting the environment for what is said here stays here. This is really about your own lived experience. We're here to listen. We create space so that everybody gets equal time to share, regardless of their title, their role. We don't even share titles in the conversations that we host, is share a name and a time when. And so it's about our
Mm,
own lived experience. And then you're listening for 80% of the time and listening to other people's, and that's where the empathy bump, like the empathy
right.
start to build, and like you're flexing that muscle. We preach that empathy is a muscle. It needs to
Yeah.
be stretched. And with every story that you hear, or every perspective that you hear, for example, we just held an amazing conversation with a global manufacturing company around the world, around how it feels to be a woman in a male dominated industry, and how, yeah, what are those challenges, and allowing people to just voice them, maybe for the first time ever, in a
Wow.
space where they feel safe sharing some of the struggles that they've witnessed or experienced themselves. And to then see the men in the room show up as allies and say, thank you, I did not know that, I appreciate that. And to honor and appreciate people's lived experience, and to then carry that with them, to share that message among others, to help build support for women in the field. So that's an example of the power of a single conversation and the space that you create for listening. Is you get to share your perspective, but it's equal time spent in that. And
In that
studies have,
shared that
and
that is a shared experience when you can
yes,
listen, when you can really not listen to speak, but listen
right.
to understand.
Yeah. Yes. And there's proof in that, and science has shown that when you are asked to share your feedback, knowing that you will not be interrupted or debated, you feel psychological safety, and you feel your voice, you're actually, it's even therapeutic in a way. It's healing for people to feel heard. And that is what I feel 99% of employees, wherever they work, just want to feel heard and valued. And that's a key insight we've heard over and over again. The way that you can make people want to stay at your company and grow is to feel appreciated, to feel for the work that they've done, and to feel heard. And actually, creating space for them for you to listen to them in a meeting and what they have to say or share. So creating space for everyone to feel heard can be the thing that can change the game for companies, regardless of size.
Well said. Absolutely well said. And I hope, um, I'm really excited to hear feedback on this particular interview and how people can take this back to their companies, whether they want to, implement something like let's pay attention at the top. How are we listening to understand? What does that even mean for us, at from a leadership standpoint? I think they can get curious and ask themselves some questions. I also want to see how can people reach out to you, because this is something that you can, like you said, virtually or in person, organize, whether it's with a division, an entire company, at a speaking event. So I would love for you to just share how people can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, first off, if anybody listening is interested in increasing the ability for their leadership team or others to be able to just listen more and or even create space for understanding what psychological safety really feels like, then please reach out to us. Go to just inclusive.co, two V's, doubling down on peace. So two V's, OE.co, CO. We'll put that in the show notes. And then,
Yep.
and then also reach out to me on LinkedIn. Jenn Graham, founder and CEO of Inclusive. Would love to connect on LinkedIn. And then we can find a time to connect and meet. I can introduce you to other team members or other clients that we've worked with that have seen just incredible results when they create space, because it helps build belonging and inclusion, which is something still that CEOs are looking for and needing, and to create that from the top down. It's got to be a whole organizational effort. So what we offer, everything from facilitation training to help kind of upskill people leaders on the art of how to listen well. Also, our actual facilitated conversations, we can facilitate for you, or we can even train you on how to facilitate. And then we have over 50 different topics that
They
we
do.
the conversation guides with key questions. And I swear, I kid you not, we just hosted one yesterday in person. She's like, I am blown away how you design questions that don't create like a vent session. And it's not that. It's actually like, we're going to listen, get below the surface, but then we're going to make sure that everybody feels empowered and hopeful and excited and grateful when they leave, so that they and that the company receives the feedback that they need to help improve. It's like giving collective feedback in a coaching way for leadership to improve.
Like you said, we're both in very similar spaces. Companies, leaders want this, and they want support around it. And
Yes.
oftentimes having a neutral person come in can really get that conversation started, build that momentum. And I'll be the first to say, it's not typically perfect, and that's what that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to bring together people who can build that trust, so people are doing this work that they do, whatever industry you're in and day out, where they are thinking and being more intentional about how they approach someone, where they are showing value for differences and appreciating the similarities, and we're respectful, so that we feel, that belonging that you're talking about. Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for being my final interview. This is just a perfect way to end in a world where I'm not looking for perfection. And I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. Bye, Jen. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to another interview of Leading from the Middle. I'm really looking forward to hearing some feedback from you. I want to connect with you. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Helen Young-McLaughlin. Just hit that hyphen in between Young and McLaughlin, or you can go to my website at helenyoungcoaching.com. Thanks again, and have a great day.